Hello everyone and welcome to Jessiper's Tales and tonight's episode of Night City Sofa. I am Jessiper, or Jess, and I'm a huge TTRPG fan, and I've been playing Cyberpunk RED for the past few years. You can find me right here on Twitch, Blue Sky, or Patreon. If you're new to the channel or the show, welcome in. Night City Sofa is my Cyberpunk RED talk show, and as you may be able to see from the image right to the side of my screen, we are going to be talking about, or I am going to be talking about Tales of the Red Hope Reborn. Now, this is going to be like a first part of a mini-series because I do want to take my time going over all the different aspects, all the different components to this street level campaign. And this first segment is player friendly, so there are not going to be any campaign spoilers for this segment as I discuss the kind of introduction, playing the campaign, going over the new rules, and I think that's it. So it is a safe segment to be in if you're a player and you've never played any of this. Do not worry, there will not be spoilers here. So, Tales of the Red Hope Reborn is a full-length campaign that includes 6 missions with jobs covering every style of play. From firefights to high society heists to the biggest bar brawl ever, all while prominently featuring the iconic bar, the Forlorn Hope. The campaign book also includes new rules, including the Hope Reborn exclusive Flash of Luck, which I will be going over in more detail. It's like the only rule I'll be going in detail at the end of the segment. Welcome in everyone. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you joining me. So first I'm going to start with the introduction that was written by Jay Gray, who is the Cyberpunk RED line manager. In his introduction, he gives us a bit of backstory on the creation from the Forlorn Hope that was created in 1992. So it's a bar in Night City, and it was created to give edgerunners a place to hang out, grab a drink, and swap stories. And if you've ever played in a TTRPG before or heard about it, you may know the common trope of you all meet in a tavern, especially in fantasy games. You all meet in a tavern and you get a quest. Or if you've played a video game, you might go to a tavern to get a quest that sends you on this epic adventure, and they wanted to do that, but in Cyberpunk. And that is how the Forlorn Hope was created. So Frank Fay and Will Moss were the ones who created it back in 1992, and it's a bar centered around serving as a second home for veterans of the Central American conflicts. Many of those veterans had become edge runners, and as such, Forlorn Hope also offered medical and tech services for the solo of fortune. Now, in the supplement to Tales of the Forlorn Hope for Cyberpunk 2020, there are adventures centered around the patrons of the Hope. In Cyberpunk RED, it's different, because obviously 25 years have passed. And this time, for Cyberpunk RED, the wonderful team at our Talsorian Games who work on Cyberpunk RED decided to center it on one of Mike Pondsmith's early promises. You can create change, at least on a small scale. In order to do that, in order to achieve that goal, this campaign is kept small, personal, and focuses on the differences a crew can make, or the difference a crew can make, for a single community. So you're not going to be making your mark all over Night City. You're not going to go and destroy a tower that maybe changes the entire state of, the city and it whole needing to be rebuilt over decades. But you can affect change, hopefully positive, for a small community that you care about. Unlike other supplements, like the Scream Sheets that they released in the core rulebook, or Tales of the Red Street Stories, Hope Reborn is a campaign that is designed to be played from beginning to end. So if you're a GM running this, you should be going in order of the missions. So when we move on to the section of playing the campaign, Hope Reborn is, and this is why, like we said, play it in order, it is interconnected adventures. You can run the missions individually with some tweaking if you really want to, but they are designed to occur one after the other, as each mission builds on the events that happened in the previous one. This campaign was written with new edgerunners in mind, so people who create new characters start at rank 4 for their roles. So if you're running it for an experienced crew, or a crew that has gained some levels and gained a good chunk of experience point or improvement points, rather, you may need to scale up the danger or difficulty. That is up to you as a GM to decide where those extra difficulties may arise. The campaign also includes and gives moments to insert the PC's life path roles, such as enemies and friends. And in this section of the book, it's encouraged that at least one of the edgerunners in your party feels connected to the bar, and it gives ideas on what that connection may look like, but it also says not to worry. If the crew does their job for, the Hope, they'll come to see it as a second home, and you should be fine if no one has a connection. So if you're running this after the fact without a new crew, and characters that have already been established in the city and they have no connection to the Hope, and there's, you've explored a lot of their backstory, that's okay. That's fine. They have accounted for this. As for the missions themselves, each mission is laid out using the beat chart system that is found in the core rulebook. At the start of each mission, you'll get a rumors table for the GM to feed bits of information to the players, either through the media's roll ability or gossip picked up on the street. So, even for you guys, like if you're a player, and spoilers, I'm not going to go into what those rumors are, but just know that there are rumors there. If your GM forgets, you can always make maybe a streetwise skill check to investigate some rumors that on events that may be occurring. For the GMs, after the rumors, is background, which will be any blocks of italicized text for you to read out loud. And then after that section in the layout of the mission is solely GM spoilery stuff, including the rest of the story with behind the scenes information, the setting, a list of important locations, and the opposition, which is a summary of potential enemies. Once you get past the basic information, you'll get the mission itself. It'll explain the hook to entice your players and the crew to, take the mission, followed by a series of alternating developments and cliffhangers, or action and non-action scenes, if that's how you prefer to view it. And then you'll reach the climax and resolution. And all the missions are detailed in this way, so the more you play, the more you get used to it, the more commonplace it'll be. And then at the end of each mission, apart from the last one, you'll find a downtime section offering advice on how much downtime to give the crew and suggestions for how to transition into the next mission. And I think that's really fantastic because, one, and as a player who probably does this way too often, I'm very bad about taking downtime and actually performing the downtime tasks as written in the core rulebook, mostly because I'm either healing and then I don't have any time to do extra research, or that's actually the main reason why. So whenever I get downtime, I'm very particular about trying to do as much as possible throughout the week. So for this, because they know what's coming, they know what's there, they've offered between each mission what types of activities would be beneficial and how much time to give your players between the events. Because sometimes you want more time to pass, or it's okay if more time passes. Sometimes it's probably better if it's shorter, where they only have a week, so that pressure is felt and things build up. And that's essentially the introductory and how to play the campaign. So it's very straightforward. The introduction, I think, playing the campaign are both a page playing the campaign might be 2 pages long. So it's a really great breakdown of how the book is laid out, how the missions are laid out, and what you're getting into overall, without giving any spoilers. After the kind of like brief description of what the book is about, we get a wonderful introduction for both players and GMs that was written by Will Moss. And you may remember that name from earlier. He was one of the writers who worked on Tales of the Forlorn Hope for Cyberpunk 2020, and he returned to write this introductory tale, and it is such a beautiful narrative. It reads like a short story. It is narrated by the main character, who is a media named Rory, and the opening is Rory doing this live stream with their drone that they have not purchased themselves. It was loaned, in quotes, by the broadcasting or the station that they work for, but essentially follows them around. This observational drone follows them around to make sure that Rory is in the shot while capturing the footage that Rory wants to showcase. And when the story opens, it's, Rory trying to rush towards the scene where there was an explosion in Little China. And we are given lines that she feeds the viewers as well as her internal dialogue. And that opens up this whole world of context and lore. For example, like in this first page of information, as she's trying to, I'm sure it's actually like the first 5 paragraphs. As she's trying to get to the scene, she talks about how she's funded by Boomtown, her stable. She needs to share half her tips until she has been fully paid out, because again, she can afford the drone or some of the other equipment. At the start of the stream, she only has like 300 views, which she calls eyeballs or eyes. And then she starts collecting hearts, and she explains that hearts are tips, and how much like a simple meal, which is a bowl of scop fish balls, which is, I can't remember, was the makeshift meat, the soy-based protein. Soy something protein is what scop stands for. And she needs at least 5,000 viewers in order for that to happen. And how 300 eyes won't even buy kibble. And I'm pretty sure bags of kibble are like 20B. So the amount of like viewers for the ratio to the tips and money, it kind of really put that into perspective for me, where if you're going to be a live streamer, you need to be sure that if you're not with a company or something else, how difficult it could be to obtain and retain those viewers and have them actually pay for you to live. And of course, this is only like one video that she's doing that day, and if that's the only news prompt that she can get to, like that's it. She may only eat 1 meal a day, and that's something that I think really harkens to the economy and just how difficult and a struggle it can be, and why people turn to edge running. Thank you, heroic antagonist. SCOP stands for single cell organic proteins. So it wasn't even what I said. I wrote it got right. But thank you, chat. Thank you, heroic. I appreciate that. So if you're playing a media, also, this is, and you decide to go like the live streamer route, this is a great kind of example of how it would work, or what your life could look like, or maybe why you went from this to joining with a crew to earn extra cash. A little further into the story, Rory heads to, the explosion location. She discovers she's not the first on scene. And it ends up getting into a confrontation with another media, which ends up sparking more questions than answers. As any good media knows, there's always more to the story. She's picked up on certain things of like, this doesn't make sense, so what is this? And shockingly, as she did earn enough to get her food, her fish balls, so she gets a text from she's eating that, she gets a text from an unknown sender that says, answers will come tomorrow, and it gives a location. And the location is a bar, and that is the Forlorn Hope. Rory heads there the very next day, and that is where her backstory is revealed. We learn who she is, where she comes from, who her parents were, and they were pretty pivotal players. And there is a very touching scene for Rory at the end of that narrative that brought me to tears. So I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to tell you what the narrative is. I highly recommend you go read it. And again, it's spoiler free for the campaign, whether you are a player or a GM. I highly encourage you to read Rory's story. And like that narrative, it talks about, she's introduced to all the different patrons. So if you're not familiar with them from Cyberpunk 2020, like I was not, it is a beautiful introduction to who they are and their personalities. And Will did such a fantastic job of making everything just come to life and, you know, giving these characters lives outside of the page, even in a few short paragraphs. So I highly recommend reading it, and you'll learn more about a little bit about the past, the bridge between 2020 and 2045, what the Hope has been through, and who these key players are. That you, as a crew, will probably, most likely I assume, be meeting and working with, and it's not information necessarily that your character wouldn't know. They might be like, you might not know everything about them, but I wouldn't say you're spoiling anything for the campaign missions to read the story. After this narration is over, there is a tale of hope, a history of hope. And Rory, as a media, releases a story. And this is why I'm not super concerned that, you know, as a player, even as a player reading this, I was like, oh, my character could find this information out. So I'm not ruining anything for myself. It's information that is out there. As Rory releases kind of a timeline of what happened to the Forlorn Hope, starting in 2011, when Dr. John, the Professor, Freeman, and William Dollar Bill Dollarhide purchased the abandoned Sierra Hotel, renovated, and modeled it into the Forlorn Hope. And that timeline goes up to and includes events that have taken place in 2045. These events can be researched by the player, or might be rumors picked up on the street, or something you might just know from your background, especially if you're one of the players that has a connection to the Forlorn Hope. There's no reason you wouldn't know this. Or you may have watched Rory's stream and found all this information out. However you want to learn this information, you can obviously talk with your GM, maybe at a session 0, about how your character could have learned it. But I definitely don't think as a player you're ruining anything for yourself at this point in time, because all that information is there for you to read and for you to have, and is out on the streets. The last little section for this introductory tale are the new rules. So throughout the campaign, there are moments to use new rules to enhance the experience. Most of these rules have been pre-released as DLCs. The mechanics are included in the Tales of the Red Hope Reborn book, just for GM ease, for player ease, so you don't have to have a bunch of different PDFs or books out. It's all contained in one booklet, which is fantastic. Now, the mechanics are included, not the lore. So if you haven't grabbed the DLCs, I highly encourage you to do so, because lore is fantastic, and you should always read it. The new rule that is, however, unique to Hope Reborn is a mechanic called Flash of Luck. Before we get into that, though, if you're curious about what DLCs if maybe you want to reread them ahead of time, and you're not sure which ones to look up, you can find those videos. I did review them all, so you can find those videos on my YouTube channel, and where I go in depth about the lore, the gear, the mechanics, all of that good stuff. But the names of the DLCs are all about agents, which teaches you about hacking and has new pieces of gear and new types of agents to do that. Hot Pursuit, which is all about vehicle chases. whether land or sea, but how a vehicle chase works. Chasing the rabbit, which is roller derby in the time of the red, and No Place Like Home, which is how to build a headquarters or utilize a headquarters owned by NPCs. You can pick up all these DLCs for free over at artelsoriangames.com/downloadable-content or DriveThruRPG. DriveThruRPG does bundle them by year, so you'd be looking at the ones for 2024, and you can just click that bundle, download it all, and you will have them in one fell swoop, which makes it super, super easy. As for Flash of Luck, I'm going to take a quick drink here. If anybody has any questions, please do feel free to post in chat. Okay. As for the new rule, Flash of Luck, this was such a phenomenal way for them to try to streamline and find a way to like ease the whole player planning session, which can take one or more sessions to do. So you can find Flash of Luck in the rules section in Reborn on page 186. And it was designed kind of especially for heists, infiltration, or con jobs, in that it might be too powerful to use during combat-oriented missions. And the reason they kind of like put this together is it can take a lot of time and be a little too cumbersome if the crew is going to spend one or more sessions trying to think of every possible outcome. Because chances are you're not going to come up with everything. But if you have, especially if you have a very strict GM, who's like, well, you didn't think about this, so you don't get it, this is kind of a way to allow players to still, I mean, you still need to plan. This doesn't replace it. But if you come up against some sort of obstacle that would completely, like, put a monkey wrench into the entire thing or risk the plan failing or whatever it was, this kind of gives you a chance to narratively improve the situation and combat that without having needed, you know, another 4-hour session planning what you were going to do. So Flash of Luck comes with the chart, and the chart is the easiest thing to look at first. That includes like the type of flash that you're doing, the maximum spending, and the luck point cost. So the type is the basic guideline for building the Flash of Luck. Maximum spending is how much money an edgerunner can spend during their flash, including the cost of gear that needs to be picked up, bribery, money that needs to be paid out, wherever you would spend money, is the max you can use in that section. And then finally, your luck point cost is how many luck points it will cost that specific edgerunner at that level. So an example from the book is an unlikely, this is like a middle tier, an unlikely task or coincidence that could not have happened on camera during a previous beat. Example, the security guard you encounter is a regular in your weekly Wednesday night poker game, even though you've never mentioned the game before. Or say you've hidden an assault rifle behind a cabinet in the nightclub you're sneaking into, even though you've never been there on camera. So that is like your example of a flash of luck for an unlikely task or a coincidence. The maximum spending is 500. So maybe at your weekly poker game, you bribed the security guard 500 EB, or the cost of that assault rifle that you hid is 500 Euro-bucks. Your luck point cost is 4. So it's going to cost you 4 points of luck to attempt to succeed here. And then using that chart, kind of determining where you want. The rules of following, or the rules to use Flash of Luck are as follows. A player can only use Flash of Luck once per beat, and no more than 3 times per mission. So a beat, again, changes between, like, you'll have the hook, And then you'll have like an alternating development or cliffhanger. So only once per each of those beats can you use Flash of Luck, and you cannot use it more than 3 times in one mission. Performing a Flash of Luck is a standard action if done during combat. If your GM will allow you to do it during combat, it does take a standard action. The player must spend luck points as indicated on the table, and then describe the action that they took in the past. Tell when it occurred, and explain how it helps in the current situation. So you don't just get to say, oh, I'm going to use Flash of Luck and spend 4 points so I can have this thing. No, you as a player need to fully explain the narrative of how this coincidence or this unlikely event or higher or lower took place. So the player still needs to spend the appropriate amount of money and succeed any checks needed to make the action viable. So if you're going to spend like the 500 eddies to bribe the security guard for your weekly poker night game, you're still going to have to succeed that bribery check. If you cannot buy the item in question due to GM or economy rules, you get your luck points back. If you fail the check, the Flash of Luck still occurs, showing that this event took place, you as the player tried, but you failed. You cannot try again. This counts against the number of times the rule can be used per beat mission, and your luck is not refunded. So if it is skill check based and you fail, the luck is spent, the money is spent, the event still happens. You just don't get to use the benefit in that beat. GMs always have the right to veto a Flash of Luck if they feel it's too powerful or impossible. For example, you can't slip sugar into the gas tank of a car you couldn't have known would be in the race, and no amount of prep will let you hide a standard sniper rifle in your rocker boy's skin-tight bodysuit. So you still have to be realistic in what you're trying to do. But the GM, of course, always has final say, and if they veto what you're trying to do, no luck is spent, no money is spent. It's just been vetoed. Good luck. Have to try another way, and you can do that. All right. Chat does say this kind of makes playing a high luck character a little more interesting and useful. Absolutely. In the chart, an easy Flash of Luck is worth 2 points. The kind of medium tier, which I've been using as examples, 4. And then it goes to a high tier, and that costs you 8 points of luck. My character does not have 8 points of luck, so there's no way I could ever do an impossibly, like, moment Flash of Luck ever in my, career going forward. It does not say, now the rules do state like per player. It doesn't say anything against pooling it, so I'm going to say that would be at the GM's discretion. If the GM was like, okay, it's an 8, the crew can pool the resources, but you can't put more than 2 points each into this group effort. As a GM, I would allow that. Because I think, like, rule of cool, if you all really wanted to try and succeed, you could. If it was a skill check base, that's where it gets a little tricky. It's probably easier to do it just per player. But definitely it gets bonuses for higher luck, because then you can do those impossible flashes of luck. Or if you do the more medium tier one, you still have some luck left over to use for your skill rolls for whatever mission you're trying to accomplish. Because again, you don't get luck. Like, your luck doesn't come back. Until a new mission? I can't remember what rules this written is. If it's new mission or new session. But, so yeah, so if a mission is essentially like one sit down thing and you use 4 points of however much luck you have, or that is your total, like, that's it for that mission. So, careful. Heroic says rules as written luck in the... It wasn't worth it in The Witcher, so I dumped luck in Cyberpunk RED. Oops. Yeah. Blank suggested I not dump luck. And unlike empathy, I listened to him for that one. So blessedly, I have 6 points. Find a gun under the front seat of the barrel, explodes me and pull the trigger. Not quite. I wouldn't be that mean. It's just if the scene failed for a conceal reveal for the vehicle in between, you know, the time that it happened and the time now, obviously somebody found it. Like, you tried to put it there, you didn't conceal it well enough. When someone was cleaning the car, they removed the gun, is what I would say. Heroic said, after watching James Hutt earlier today, what he said about facilitating players, I think he'd agree. And that, again, it's not, they're not going to write something like that as rules as written, because then players can be like, it's in the rules. But you as a GM, it's your world, it's your table. If you're like, no, it's cool, and I'm good with you guys pooling your things to have this crazy, extraordinary thing happen, you can do that. You as a GM can break the rules, because the person at the table who facilitates it is you, the GM. So feel free. Peach says, and depletes resources from everywhere, which is also good from a GM perspective if the players are allowed to pool to try and accomplish bigger tasks. That's just my evil GM brain looking at things. Yeah, the GM is essentially gone no matter the cost, or no matter the game. You're correct, Patient. So, I think it's definitely one of those things where, and the spending to the amount, like, that's the max spending. Your GM could say it's less. Generally between, I think the lowest level is 100, where mid-tier is like 500 spending. So it could be less, as long as it's probably over 100. As a GM, I would say like over 100, no more than 5. Depending on what it was that they're trying to do. Maybe, you know, if my players don't have a lot of cash, if the cash is burning a hole in their pocket, and I'm like, man, I really need to try to like chip away at this, I'll probably use the max. But if like they're starving and they're struggling, I might do give me a conversation test to see like maybe how friendly you and this guard that you just invented in the middle of nowhere are. And depending on how well they do, I might base the bribery amount on that. Maybe make it a little bit less, depending on where they're breaking into, right, too? Because they don't want to get fired or get caught. So, like, if you're a really good friend, like BFFs, which you're not going to do in a flash of luck, it would be less. But you didn't think of it at the time, you're doing it now, so we'll see. If you fail horribly, it's going to be 500, but if you do really well, maybe I'll make it only 3. So as a GM, you have that wiggle room to kind of play with and do as you will. And unless you guys have any more questions or comments, that's actually going to be it for me and this first section of Hope Reborn, or Tales of the Red Hope Reborn. I'm very excited to get into the missions themselves. I'll be that's not the right term. I'll be talking about 2 missions every episode from here on out. So for a total of 6, we'll have 3 more episodes going in order. So again, those will not, or I shouldn't say again, but those segments will not be player friendly. If you have not played through Hope Reborn, don't attend. Let yourself experience it with fresh eyes. If you've played it though, feel free to sit and chat and let me know how it went in your game, because every crew does things differently. But I'll be doing my best to kind of give my insight, my feedback, and looking at those missions and what can happen. Yes, beyond this episode of Hope Reborn, there will be spoilers. There will be plenty of spoilers. I think, however, with that will conclude this episode of Night City Sofa. So thank you all so much for being here. Like I said, next week we will be continuing this Let's Learn Tales of the Red Hope Reborn mini-series, starting with the first two missions, The Angel's Share and Real Estate Rumble. So we'll get to see how you get into this campaign, all about the Forlorn Hope. Thank you all for joining me today. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave a like and comment Flash of Luck down below in the comments so I know you made it to the end, because props to you. And until next week, Chims, stay frosty.